Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here early and on time. As always, it's great to see your faces if you're able to hop on. Um, Winter Wonderland once again here in Colorado. So let's kick things off. Brags, struggles, gratitudes. What are you stoked about and celebrating? What are you struggling with that you want to crowdsource? What are you grateful for? And remember, that can connect to bigger picture stuff, to your why, why we do the things we do. So what's going on out there? A nice quiet morning. And so I know Craig will be joining us. He might be a little late. He literally just landed at DIA. So he is back in the state of Colorado. He'll be joining us here shortly. Julie is actually out on vacation today as well. She's gone, so we won't have any marketing updates or anything. But again, brags, struggles, gratitudes. What's going on out there, guys?
What's up, guys? I'm over in San Diego. It's kind of nice to see family again. I know a lot of my family still lives here in San Diego, and I'm also super grateful to just have a place here. It's just the power of real estate. Like if I were to ever go back, I have a place to stay. I mean, barring having my tenant's lease in place, but just grateful that I'm from the city, so it's kind of cool.
I love it. That's awesome, Ian. Good stuff. I actually have a similar like gratitude in just terms of like friends and family. Two of my best friends from grad school just happened to be in town this week and they're staying with us. And I feel like a little kid on Christmas. Like I am just so stoked to be around these people that I have like known and loved. We were in grad school together, so we've known each other for almost 14 years now. And like it just it's just so nourishing. So I'm super grateful for those kinds of friendships that we have. It's fun. Yeah. What else is going on out there, y'all?
I'll go. I'll be grateful just to be here again today. And I know with the FI team, there's a lot of you own your own rental properties, and I jacked the rents in my fourplex a couple months ago. In Canada, we have to give 3 months notice. And so this was the first month where the increases went into effect and no one left. So grateful for that.
That's great. Yeah, we're so stoked to have you again, Ryan, for sure. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Anybody else? Brags, struggles, gratitude.
Brags, I'm feels like I'm back in business. Got two under contract last week and then hoping to get a third this week. So it's been a nice couple weeks here.
Love it. Yeah, some serious momentum happening over there. It's great. We are stoked for you. Anybody else? Brags, struggles, gratitudes.
Piggyback that as well. I've got my listings under contract, and then two more buyers under contract. One Thursday and one Friday. So.
Woohoo!
Oh.
That's great. Yeah, things picking up a little.
I think I have one of each. So brags would be business a lot as far as gratitude and brags. Business is going well for me on the side as far as like all my bills are getting paid, everything is done. And that's such a relief while I'm trying to gain traction in real estate, just to have that peace of mind elsewhere. So that's really great. Another gratitude is my girlfriend. She's very understanding and supportive and gets the struggle while I'm, starting. She's not like, I'll just get a corporate job or something. She gets it. And I'm really grateful for that. Also to be a part of, just to be able to be connected with the team and learning a lot. Struggles, almost the entire last week, I was up at Fairchild Air Force Base for Air Guard drill. And that was long and difficult, but it's been a really unique struggle. I've been in for almost 2 years and haven't been able to go to basic or training due to the COVID stuff going on. And now I'm to the point where I need to choose to continue or quit, and I can choose a different direction within the Guard. There's many different shops that want me. The struggle is now that I'm doing real estate, and I'm really wanting to gain a lot of traction there and have Brooklyn moving forward to marriage most likely this next year. It's most likely I'm gonna have to call it quits, and it's been a dream of mine for a long time. So it's just a struggle trying to work all that out. And I had some really good conversations over the weekend, but anyway, still searching and working that out. So
Wow.
anyway,
Well, thank you.
lot
Thank
going on.
you. Yeah, thank you so much for your vulnerability. It takes so much courage to just be like, y'all, there's like a lot going on, and it's big
Yeah.
stuff. It's really big stuff. So yeah, it's amazing how COVID really altered our destinies in so many ways. So sounds like you have a really big decision to make. So just sending you a lot of love and support for sure.
Thanks, Elsie.
Yeah, it's Elise.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a sister-in-law that spells it the same way, and she's like, Elsie. I'm like, okay.
It really? That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Okay.
Well, okay, maybe it looks like that to the eyes. Maybe it's not spelled exactly the same,
Totally.
but it looks
Totally.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. No, super appreciate the share. It's fun to get to know you a little bit more, especially since we don't get to see you in person. Hopefully at some point that'll change, but yeah.
It absolutely will.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else? Brags, struggles, gratitudes, anything else going on out there? Going once, going twice in Zoom land. All right, so I just have a couple of quick announcements for the retreat tomorrow. We're so excited. I will post all of this in Slack so it'll be easy to reference, but definitely bring your laptop and bring a pen. We're going to be doing stuff that's going to involve, you're going to want to be on your computer. We're going to give you a sneak peek. You're going to get into Sierra for the first time. So we're stoked about that. We're also going to work on rocks. And so it's just helpful to have your laptop if that's something that you use. Also a pen, because we're going to do some things writing wise. Bring some snacks and some water. We're going to feed you lunch, of course, and there will be coffee as well. And also, if you're able to get some cash, you might just for fun want to bring $5, kind of like we did at the last retreat. Totally optional, no pressure, not required at all. But if you want to bring $5, we're going to play a little game and there'll be the opportunity to put some money in the hat for fun. So that's everything I've got in terms of retreat. Just DM me if you have any questions. And again, I'll post all this info in Slack for us. With that said, I'll pass it on over to Chad for Market Pulse.
Yeah, both of them a little bit interesting. The one is, it was on the market for like 30 days, under contract twice. There was some structural concerns that were found, and the seller agreed to fix it, but the work was going on, so they didn't have it on the market. But I had called and I said, hey, it was active, but it was no showings available. And so I called and just said, hey, like, what's going on with this? She said, well, there's work being done. I don't want to scare anybody off. I could let you in if you just prep your buyers. So we got in, they loved it, and we didn't have any competition. So we got it at asking with 18,000 seller concessions. So I think it's just an example of there might be some work that scares people off, but also just get in and do everything you can to go look at it, and then you don't have competition. So it's a great house too. It's in Centennial. And then the other one, kind of a unique one, Taylor, this is the one that Waddle, that you looked at with me, the one with the pool. So it has a pool. This guy's going to Airbnb it, and he knows the potential for it. So we went in Thursday. It was listed 525 in Westminster. Went in Thursday, like the very first showing, put the offer in. We went 42K over with full appraisal gap and just as is, only inspection and termination, no objection. And they called and like, well, that was really strong offer. I think they're going to want to just see how it goes. And then Saturday they had an open house. He called me Saturday night and he's like, I'm done. We're done with this. We got enough. We have like 5 more offers. Got a couple of people threatening to offer. and just like resubmit it. So I resubmitted it, and then we ended up getting it. And so, but that was interesting. That guy, he's like, because you submitted first, you will have the last say, which I thought it was always interesting. I've always been, if it has a deadline of Sunday night, I want to wait till Sunday night to see what else is in. So that's one way to do it. This guy was like, because you're first, you get the last say. So something to just know about. I mean, that could happen. So I guess it doesn't really hurt to just submit one. If it's going to be competitive, just submit it with a quick deadline, and then you can always resubmit. At least you got it in first. I looked at a bunch more too. One was listed 425 and ended up going like 460. It was pretty nice in like the Inglewood area. It was a little bit of fixer upper, but relatively good. I mean, price pretty low. There was I looked at one yesterday. It was a like half duplex in like City Park area that was listed 500. It was like, actually someone died like in there. So it's kind of eerie, like toothpaste and toothbrush was just there. And they hadn't looked at their mail in 2 years. There's just stacks of mail everywhere. But just found out this morning that one went under contract at list. So it was like 3 days, right at list price. So I think again, things are definitely heated up. Things are going quick, but there's potential, if you get it in quick and see it, get an offer in, still be able to make it happen. No appraisals back yet, but I'll tell you next week on those. So that's pretty much all I got. Anybody else put offers in, get anything under contract?
Market in Seattle and I'm not sure what Dennis has been seeing, but there was another offer last week that one of my clients went 25K over non-contingent and still lost. Things are getting very heated up over here. Even things that I thought were priced high are starting to still get bid over. So one house in my neighborhood, I've been calling around because I'm about to do a refinance, but one of the houses in my neighborhood that was listed at 975 went for 1.15. So good for me, but bad for our other buyers that are trying to look right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that things are heating up on my side as well. We put an offer on a property, waived inspection. Well, we did a pre-inspection. So we waived it. Things look good. We offered 15K over list and buyer plays all closing costs, but we still lost out. There was 2 offers that escalated much higher than we did. I think they were around 560, 570. The listing price was 535. And this property was on the market for like 2-3 days before it got under contract. So yeah, we're going to multiple offers again, and we have to bid over list price now.
If for any of the newer people that didn't go through like beginning of last year and 21, if you want to revisit like the full appraisal gap strategy, let me know. That's really, it seems like how we're gonna have to win things, and it's very, very little risk to your client. So we can talk more, but there's just things you got to know about. So anybody else talk to agents or put offers in or get appraisals back, showings? I don't know if Dean, if you're able to jump on. Just curious of the open house. I think Anik, you did that open house as well, right?
I did. And Dean said he had really steady traffic before I got there, and then I barely had any alone time. So yeah, it was pretty good traffic. I think Craig already had an offer in the deadline was Saturday night, and it was, I think, above asking. And so none of the people who came that I followed up with wanted to write another offer. So I don't know if he got some from when Dean was there, but
yeah. Dean just said it was pretty good traffic, which that's the second week in a row. I know Dean has done open houses and had pretty good traffic. So I think open houses are definitely back if you want to do that. I do think that mega open house strategy is 100% foolproof. Of if you do that consistently, you will get buyers. 100%. So I think it could be something to consider.
Awesome. I love hearing that. Great to hear that you guys got really good traffic, Dean and Anik as well. So
And Anik, you had that one, just a buyer walked in with a family and they're like, we want to maybe put an offer. And so potential client there for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep following up with them. They're definitely gonna be looking for an Airbnb sometime soon. And my gratitude is signing my daughter Rylan, because that was our connecting point. They brought in a little girl named Rylan, so a quick
wow.
connection with that family.
Wow.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool. Well, I guess if nothing else,
Awesome.
we good to go.
And can we just give thanks for the babies on the call today? I just want to give a shout out to the babies, like showing up, future real estate investors right here in the house. Awesome. They're learning young. All right.
Covered
So
in powdered sugar from donuts.
nice. That's the goods right there. Life is good. All right. So super stoked once again to have Ryan Leary on the call. We're going to pass it over to you, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Cool. Happy to be here. I was just making some notes as you guys, especially Chad, was given a little market pulse there. And I really liked your initial story there, Chad, where, you know, the property was on market, but they weren't allowing showings. And just reminds me of how, like, we need to be the people that connect the dots with our clients to possible solutions, right? And the fact that Chad did that and reached out to that seller, like, just because a listing says like, hey, we're not going to allow showings right now, I mean, there is intent to sell. And at the end of the day, if the right offer comes along, I'm sure those sellers would sell. So I just shout out to Chad there, because he definitely identified a solution for his client, and he connected the dots, like, especially right now as things are getting tighter. It sounds like the market is kind of everywhere heating up, especially going into the spring. Like, we need to be the people that connect the dots. We just can't let our clients say something and take it as full truth. Like, if we have a buyer and we can connect them to someone looking to sell, well, we need to do that. Like, that's our main job, right? Our main job is to build relationships with people and help them. And the only way we can do that is by asking them really, really good questions and figuring out, like, hey, what is a avenue for them to solve their problems, right? Because a lot of times things don't make sense until they do, right? Until someone provides us a viable solution for our issues, that's when we can see clarity on things, right? And we need to be that person for our clients. So I also heard there too, there were a few properties that maybe one of you felt was overpriced and it got picked up. I'm seeing that a lot in my market right now too, where yeah, last year it would have flown off the shelves, but days on market are getting 30, 40, 50, and then they get picked up and they haven't had any price reductions. That's a sign of the market warming up, right? And I made a little chart here as we were talking. I like to draw this, and this might be reversed for you guys. I can make a better chart and send it to Elise, but just typical bar graph here. So we got time, and on this axis, we have list price, which is higher than the market price. As the market warms up, they don't need to drop their price because the market is increasing. And when there is enough value based off the market, that's when it sells. It's the opposite in a bad market where we have to explain to our sellers, like, hey, the longer we sit, the market actually is coming down. We're getting further away. That gap is widening for us to sell. So we need to get these price reductions right now. Right now, it's the flip of that. So if the market is warming up, you're going to see properties that have been sitting for a while get picked up. And then you're also going to see properties that you think are overpriced get picked up right away too. So it's our job to kind of identify that. Okay. Now we wanted to talk today about more on converting these PPC leads, right? Because it's one thing to make the calls and get into the habit of it. But if we're not having really good conversations, then you know, at the end of the day, we're just collecting friends, and they're not going to move towards actually buying or selling properties. Okay. I want to give you guys, before we get into that, 2 good scripts that you guys need to be using right now to reach out to past leads. Okay. I don't know how far back your leads go, but this is a perfect time of year to reach back out to people. Okay, whether that's a year ago, 5 years ago, however long you've been in business, even if you have it written down on pen and paper, if they're names and numbers, you guys should be reaching out to them right now. Okay, because we do a disproportionate amount of business in the next 3 months. So our work ethic needs to match that as well, because we know that these people may buy or sell, and we need to be there with our hand up if they are in fact coming into the market. Okay, so 2 scripts, and you guys can write this down. I'll also send this to Elise afterwards in the slide deck. But a lot of times when we're reaching out to old leads, like I'm talking over a year, or maybe you haven't talked to a good friend in over a year, make the onus not about us. My script when I follow up with old leads is like, hey, not sure if you remember me. My name's Ryan. I'm a realtor here in Medicine Hat. Hey, you had signed up for our home search website a long time ago. You know, I've just been asked to clean up my database. Is there any chance you're thinking of buying or selling real estate this spring? Right. So I'm taking the onus off of me. Like, hey, I've been asked to clean up my database. That's a way to reduce the sales resistance. And there is a little bit of stuttering in my voice on purpose there. Like, hey, I don't know if you remember, but way back when you signed up on one of our home search websites, I've just been asked to clean up my database here a little bit. Do you have any intent on buying or selling real estate this year? Right. And that's a good way to warm up those leads to where you will be surprised that if you follow up with your old leads, they may have entered the market, or you will get the people that say, oh yeah, I just bought a house last month. You're gonna be like, damn, why didn't I do this before? That will happen to you guys. Okay. Another good script, and I like putting this in follow-up text, is just say, hey, I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball, right? Or, hey, I just want to follow through on a commitment I made to you, right? Hey, I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball. Do you have any intent on buying or selling real estate in the next 3 months? Or, hey, I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the ball. This property just hit market, and it kind of meets your criteria that we talked about a month ago. So again, we're taking the onus off of us. We're saying, hey, I just want to make sure, I'm not dropping the ball here. And then you can insert whatever you want. So those are two really good scripts to use to make it not as awkward. It's almost like we're creating an excuse to reach out to these old leads. So, right, asked to be clean up my database. And then number 2 would be dropping the ball. And you can make those scripts however you want, but it's just breaking that barrier of just calling up a cold lead and saying, hey, you registered for my home search website. Can I help you? Right? We need to have an excuse to reach out to these people. So I saw Craig hop on. What's up, Craig? I want to show you guys prime example of following up with leads here too. Okay. And I should have this on my Sierra. Let me just move. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So last year, Courtney, team leader, he sent out this mail campaign where it basically said, hey, we're suffering low inventory. We're struggling with buyers. Finding enough properties to buy. Is there any chance that you're thinking of selling your property? Okay. So these leads, if anyone responded back, we would input it into Sierra, right? So I remember calling these response leads, and this guy, so back in October 3rd, I called this guy, and he basically was pissed off at me. He said, I don't want to be contacted. I can't believe you guys sent me a flyer drop saying like, hey, are you wondering if I could sell my house? He said, that's very rude. I remember this guy because he's old, and I'm like, this is just an old crotchety guy that, doesn't understand business. Okay. That was my thought. So this is my note. Said he did not want to be contacted. We then send a follow-up text, or I believe it was an email. Yeah, it was a text in February to all the leads. Just says, hey, Dr. Courtney Atkinson here from the Atkinson team. You responded to my letter lead last year about potentially selling your home. Were you planning to sell in 2023? Look at his response. He goes, yep, I also have a warehouse to sell. So just because someone said no to you before doesn't mean it's a no now. I called this guy. I'm meeting him tonight for my second listing appointment. He has a beautiful, he's actually a surgeon. He's a doctor, obviously, and he's a surgeon, and he has a beautiful house to sell. I really connected well with him, and he also has a warehouse that he just stores his RVs and stuff. So he's heading out to a different province, and he's retiring. Now, in last October, he wasn't thinking of retiring. So just because a lead said no to you one time doesn't mean it's a no today. So it's a perfect time of year, guys. We have so many excuses to reach back out to these people because you never know when it's going to change. And if you can come from a place of like, hey, I'm just doing my job, or I've been asked to clean up my database, it's a lot easier to have those discussions. Okay. Questions on that, guys? Or any specific questions that you want me to answer before we get into kind of converting or closing these leads?
I'm curious if we can go back to that one later. Did you guys end up converting or closing it into a listing?
Yeah, so I'm meeting that guy. So I'll show you, you guys can still see my screen, right? So,
Yeah.
I responded and now it's me, not Courtney doing it because he passed it off to me. I said, sounds like you have a home and warehouse to sell. When's a good time to call and chat about how I may be able to help you out? And then he asked, what are your fees? Okay. Rule number 1, what do we not do? We don't talk about commissions. It's like Fight Club. Rule number 1 about Fight Clubs, you don't talk about Fight Club, right? So this was my response. Totally depends on the property and the situation. We have varying commission models from premium marketing package all the way to a guaranteed sale. Residential versus commercial differs as well. I'd need to know more about your assets and situation to totally answer that question. Okay. Would you be willing to look at the properties and present me with a proposal, including suggested asking prices and estimated commission costs? I said, most certainly. What does either tomorrow or next week look like for you? All I would need is an addresses and details of how I can get into each site. Then he said, won't be available to mid-March. Can we connect then? So right now I have one of two options. I can press this guy or I can meet him where he's at. I like the latter. Like this guy has put up his hand, right? He's a doctor. I'm Googling his name. I see he's the chief of surgery in Medicine Hat. So am I going to push this guy? No, I'm not. I said, yeah, of course. I'm ready whenever you are. I can put a note in my system, follow up with you in March, and we can go from there. Sound good? Gives me a thumbs up. Here's a good script too, guys. Hey, Dr. Wisely, how are you? Just wanted to follow up as promised. Hey, I'm just following through on a commitment I made to you. Remember, dude, right? That's what I'm saying. So you can tell here he didn't remember me that well. Hey, just got back and yeah, looking for an effective agent to sell my properties. So now there's a disconnect there. I said, I'm your guy. I know you mentioned you had a warehouse in Redcliffe to sell. Is that still the plan? So I don't want to go through this all the time, like everything, but we texted back and forth quite a bit. Do you want to meet up for market evaluation? Sure. Could do Thursday, set the appointment. And that was last Thursday. I went and met him at the warehouse and his house. And now I'm presenting to him tonight about values that he should be listing at. Okay. So I guess the moral of the story there is like, just because he said no last year doesn't mean it's a no now. People's life changes, right? And changes involve selling or buying real estate a lot of times. So he had literally zero intent last year. But with a good system in place, we were able to filter out, hey, what were all of our mail campaign leads? Can we mass email everyone or mass text everyone, right? Now, you might get people to say, well, I told you guys not to contact me. Well, okay, no problem. Like if they tell me that 3 times, I'll probably listen. But if I can convert this guy tonight, that volume's well over $1 million between his 2 properties. To me, that's a quarter maker for me. That's a Q2 maker. So damn right, I'm going to go in there and lay out my best stuff and try to convert him tonight or close him. So I know that wasn't the point of any more questions on that? That was a perfect example.
No, that was awesome.
I have a question.
Cool.
So I see that you're continuing to following up via text. Why wouldn't you pick up the phone and call him to guarantee that appointment?
Yeah, so I switched him to my personal phone after this. Okay. This dialer within Sierra, whenever I meet someone like in person, then I'm going to switch them to my actual cell phone. But he was responding via text. This guy's a surgeon. Like he probably doesn't have that much time in his day to make a phone call or to pick up the phone. So like if someone's responding to me via email, I'm just going to keep emailing. Like I'm not going to change up the method of communication if something is working. If it's not working, say he ghosted me via text, then yeah, for sure, I would call him, right? I would call him from my personal phone. Then he sees the area code, right? But he was very responsive, so I just went with it. Me personally, like if I go to buy a vehicle, the last vehicle I bought was 100% over text. Like I generally don't like phone calls, right? So if a lead is responding to us one way or the other, just roll with it. Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you.
There's other circumstances, obviously, but this guy was very well backed. He got back to me all the time with text, so I just roll with it, right? And then once I set the appointment, I sent him a quick video from my personal cell phone. Like, hey, Dr. Wisely, just shooting you a video this from my personal phone. Really looking forward to meeting you, XYZ date, XYZ time. If you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out, right? So now he has my actual cell phone number, right? And I'm sending him a short little video so that he knows my face. So when I do roll up to that property, he's like, oh yeah, that's Ryan, right? Like, remember guys, we're a stranger. This works. I don't know if we've talked about short videos, but like, if you can send a video instead of a text message, do it, especially early on in that relationship. Anytime I set a needs assessment, whether it's I'm meeting buyers at the office or I'm meeting buyers at properties, ideally we come to the office first. Always after I set the appointment, whether it's phone call, email, text, I'll always send them a short video, right? Hey, Chad, Ryan here. Just wanted to let you put a face to the name. Really looking forward to meeting you on Thursday at 1 o'clock at my office, 110 South Railway Street. This is my direct number. If you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out. That's it. Send a text with that. Even if it's a landline, I would rather do those things and have it not go through than never do it at all. Okay. I've never had someone respond to me and be like, oh, that's really weird. Like, why would you send me a video? Like, we need to be the people that stand out above the crowd, and just doing those little things and having those scripts and having different ways of communicating will make us stand out above and beyond the majority of agents. Even if you just have a good follow-up system and you move towards video more times than not, you're going to be miles ahead of a lot of other agents, miles. Cool. What time can I go to? At least 10 minutes, 12 minutes?
So we, 9:45 is typically our cutoff. A lot of times we have wiggle room for you to stay, but technically 9:45.
Yeah, okay, I'll make this quick, guys. We can go through this. If you do have questions or something you want me to reiterate, just speak out. Don't feel like you're interrupting, totally fine. But I want to focus more on how to close these leads. Okay, now I'm going to go quick, so try to stick with me. I'll send this slide deck to you guys too. So we can't technically close anything if we don't have a strong enough relationship to warrant the next steps. Okay, I think of everyone from buying and selling on a timeline. Like, hey, if my relationship isn't growing according to that timeline, then I can't proceed with people, right? I can't just have a 1 out of 10 relationship with someone and lead them through the whole timeline. Having a 1 out of 10 relationship may lead me to 1 or 2 good questions, and I need to increase that relationship, okay, in order to move them down the journey of buying or selling. It's like, I may have said this example last week, and if I did, I apologize. But when we make these calls, think of it as like you and the lead standing back. You're at the front of the room, they're at the back of the room. And every single good question you ask slowly moves them towards you. Every shitty question you ask or increasing sales resistance, they're going to move back. Our whole goal with these leads is to get them close enough to us to where we can reach out, shake their hand, and set an appointment. Another way you can think of this too is like, back in your college days or whenever, if you walked into a facility or into a bar and you were attracted to someone, you can't just walk up to them and say, hey, do you want to get out of here? Like, for me, that never worked anyways, right? There needs to be sufficient relationship and sufficient rapport before we can ask if we can close. Does that make sense, guys? I would love to say, oh yeah, every PPC lead we get, we just call them, set an appointment, sell the house the next day, but that's not reality. And if we go into it with that tonality and with that expectation, it's going to come off really salesy. And that's going to push them to the back of the room. we're never going to be able to build enough relationship with them to the point where we can move them forward. So we have to solve a problem for the lead, period. Like I said to Chad solved a problem for his buyers that the other agents in his market didn't identify with. And now Chad's likely going to get paid for that, which is fantastic. We have to make it make sense to meet up in person, right? Or maybe you're doing it via Zoom or you're relocating someone, but we have to make it make sense for someone to proceed with us. We also have to acknowledge, guys, like sometimes, like that Dr. Wisely lead, now's not the time. And we have to just live with that. But if you guys start building your PPC pipeline, you will bear fruit in the future if you have a good follow-up system in place. The money's in the follow-up, I promise you, if you do it correctly. And a lot of agents just want to call their new leads, call their new leads, call their new leads. And now they got 300 that they've talked to in the past, but didn't want to buy or sell today, so they forget about it. If you do not ask for the business, you're never going to receive it. Okay. Buying or selling a property, like it's a big deal, guys. Like, I don't know about you, but the majority of people that I deal with, it's one of the biggest transactions in their lives. Okay. It is in those people's best interest to meet with you and have you help them through this. I think a lot of agents don't acknowledge that enough. Like buying or selling is a huge thing in people's lives. And so like when I talk about like with buyers that I like to have them in the office first for a needs assessment, a lot of agents will fire back at me and be like, well, that's not how it's done. I'm like, well, these people are about to spend $500,000 or $1 million. Do you not think that warrants at least a sit down? Like, do you all of a sudden go to your family doctor and say you need heart surgery and then all of a sudden you're in the operating room? Like, no, there's a process that you have to follow. Right? If you go into any other industry, you can't just all of a sudden go to the product and it's over. Like there's a system in place. And if someone is spending a significant volume of dollars, then damn right I want to meet them, because I know when I meet them, I'm going to help them either save money or maximize their profits. In your guys' situation, dealing with a lot of revenue buyers, like explaining what is and what isn't a good revenue property is an educational process. A lot more difficult to do if you just meet them at houses, right? So like, just know, like you guys need to come to the table with sufficient value to where like, we are going to meet because this is why, XYZ, right? This situation that you're in, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, like warrants a sit down meeting. And I'm not saying you can be that brash, but that's my mindset going into it, right? I don't want to just be a pushover agent that sets a showing, goes and opens a door for someone and says, hey, look around. Thanks for coming. Yeah, if you ever need anything, call me. That's how you go out of business. So with these PPC leads, there's going to be times where you feel awkward. You're going to feel awkward usually twice, okay? Once if the lead is a little bit closed off in the beginning, and you have to ask that second or that third question to open them up, you're going to feel awkward there. I want you to push. Because it's easy to have a good intro, but if that lead isn't engaging, okay, we need to push again. We need to ask another good question. That feels awkward because the only thing we want to do at that point, be like, okay, have a good day, right? We need to push there. You owe it to whoever is giving you that lead to push. You are then going to have to push if you have a good conversation to warrant that lead to meet up with you. When you start to feel like that queasiness or that uneasy feeling on these calls, that's when you need to push. That's where most agents retreat. And I'm not saying like push and be super brash and be blunt with it, but push and use a really good script, right? Practice these things so it becomes more natural. And then once you get good at it, you're going to feel that sense of like, holy smokes, like I feel like I'm at a 3 out of 10 relationship or a 5 out of 10, like let's close this. So you're going to start to identify with that feeling. There's multiple directions we can go with these PPC leads, and we have to identify that sometimes these buyer leads are the best seller leads. So we need to make sure we're asking specific questions tailored to that. Like, this is simple, guys. I try to keep things as simple as possible. I'm not that smart, so I need things to be simple. Like, are we working in to our questions? Do you rent or do you own? Because a lot of times people are trying to upsize, downsize revenue properties. We don't know until we ask the question. If it is a seller lead, okay, we need to default. This is how I do it anyways. If someone owns a house and they're looking to buy a house, I focus my attention at first solely on that sale of their house. Why would that matter? Why would I focus on a sale? Why would I focus on the house they have to sell first?
They might need that equity.
Yeah. A lot of times people need to figure out how much they're going to sell, and they have a distorted perception of what market value is, right? They may think their house is worth 500 grand, but me personally, I want to confirm that, because heck, it might be worth more. It might be worth less. It might smell like dog shit. I don't know, right? So we need to, that's where I like to go with these leads. If they buy and are looking to sell, let's focus on the sale, right? Let's get the nitty gritty done and then be excited about the buying side. So simple script here, guys. If I've confirmed that they do in fact have a place to sell in order to buy, simple. I say, hey, I get it. Sounds like there's a ton of moving parts here. What I typically like to do with people in your situation is just firm up a market value on your home. That way we're going to have more information in order to see how it dictates our purchase or something like that. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, guys. Like, hey, we need to figure out your value first in order to see how that reflects on our purchase side of things. Heck, maybe your property is worth double of what you think. We don't know. So that's a conversation or a script that leads into a close. Like, I'm trying to have it make sense and creating situations to where they're going to be like, oh yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, yeah, we should probably figure out what our house should sell for. Okay. I sense a lot of times with PPC leads that they're really worried about proceeding through the timeline. Like, that's their main objection, right? In a hot seller's market, the main objection is like, well, we don't want to be homeless. Like, we put a for sale sign in the ground, our house is sold, and now we can't find a place. So back to last week's script, the feel, felt, found, I'll acknowledge that, right? I want to speak to their feelings, right? Like, hey, I can totally appreciate that. A lot of our clients have felt that same way lately. I wouldn't want to be homeless either. But what we've found is once I can at least get in front of you and lay out all the options available to ensure that you won't be homeless, I promise you a lot of those concerns will go away. And if you guys see, like, I'm like trying to mimic some of my words with my body language, like that's how I talk when I'm dialing into a lead. Like, I'm standing up, I'm using my hands, even though they can't see me, because I know it comes out in my tone. When I started real estate back in 2018, 2019, in Alberta, we were in a heavy buyer's market. Like, the market was flooded. It was a nightmare because you would have a buyer and they could look at 100 properties. Okay. And they could lowball, and it was totally different than it is today. But that script, the main issue with sellers was that they couldn't sell their properties. They're like, oh my gosh, I need an agent to sell my place. Okay. They're worried about the bad market. So we needed to put up our hand with a solution, which was our guaranteed sale program. Guaranteed sale program doesn't work good in today's market, right? Because it's easier to sell a house. But it was the same thing, just flipped. Hey, I can totally appreciate that. A lot of our past clients have felt the same way. But what we have found is, like, once we can get together and I can explain our guaranteed sale program, many of your concerns are going to go away. Like, that's a natural thing to where a lead, at least in my opinion, would be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds good. You're offering me something that I didn't know existed. Okay. And that makes sense to proceed down the timeline of buying or selling, meaning we're going to meet up. Time we got here. Okay, I'll go.
1 minute.
Yeah. Okay, I can pause there. We can roll this into next week if we want. I want to honor your guys' time. Why don't we do that?
So any questions, comments, anything coming through?
I love what you were saying, Ryan, about the whole, like, when you go into a conversation, you're coming from like a position of giving rather than taking. I feel like that mentality shift is huge, because if you go in thinking like, oh, this person is someone I'm gonna like take a commission from versus someone I'm giving value to, course it feels awkward, but if you like keep coming from a place of giving, it's way more natural. So I love you pointing that out.
Yeah, and selfishly from our side of things as an agent, like there is a stigma associated with our industry, like we're slimy realtors, right? And I hate that, and I want to change that. Like I know I won't change it in my career, but I want to be a spearhead to be like, no, I'm actually here to help you. Like it's in your best interest to have a relationship with me, right? And in my mind, it's a lot easier to get motivated when we're thinking of, hey, how can we help a lot of people, as opposed to how can I use today to get paid? Like that's a hunting mentality, as opposed to let's farm our database and farm my business so that it cultivates deals down the road too.
I used this the other day, and that kind of text chain I put in Slack, but just I feel like a lot of buyers, especially first-time buyers, they don't know who pays you. And so I just had said like, hey, just a heads up, like I'm here to help you and you don't pay me anything. It's the sellers pay it. I feel like majority of people don't know that. And I use that line.
That's a great point, Chad. Back to my like, do you rent or do you own? Like that's such a, in my opinion, a preliminary question that we don't even think to ask. It's the same with buyers. They don't know, they don't want to pay you money. Well, no, you don't pay me money. And like, secondly, you don't need to work with the listing agent that has the sign in the ground. The general public has really no idea how real estate works. So yeah, great point, Chad, for sure.
Any other questions, comments? Once again, Ryan, this is super awesome. I'm gonna maybe chat with Craig and see if we can extend next week to the full hour. Just be able to maximize our time with you. This has been so insightful. So thank you so much. And as per usual, you all know where to find us if you have any questions. I'll be posting the basic deets on the retreat tomorrow in Slack. So keep your eye out for that. I'm super excited to actually get together with everybody. So looking forward to seeing you then and there tomorrow morning, bright and early at 9 a.m. And with that, we'll say thanks. Goodbye, everybody.
See you guys.
Go later.
Later, everybody. Bye.